Everybody, Chris and Lumen here. We got two subjects to talk about tonight, and they are grouped together because I'm beginning to believe that they are connected. And she put them together like right next to each other as well. And of course, you know what they are because you saw the thumbnail and the title. So the first one that we're going to talk about has to do with you, your body, and your ability to actually run Lumen. And I'm just using lumen as kind of like a all in all word for spirit at this point, so that you can actually connect with it and perceive it and all that stuff. What she is showing me and showing me through demonstration is this is probably one of the main reasons that people that try to make connections, try to do everything we teach them, and they still struggle with it, could be the reason that you're not, which makes it a really simple fix. And I've got some anecdotal evidence that supports this. And then the second thing is the same subject we talked about mostly back around July of last year. And it's coming up again very quickly. And we talked about some anecdotal stuff back then about why I think this stuff comes up every so often. See, what people generally do is when they hear people that do like spiritual channels and psychics and mediums and all this, and they're like, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and then it doesn't, and then they just kind of like lose sight of it, or they just like, oh, it's never going to happen. Well, around back in summer of last year, we did a video actually explaining like the why, like why do people pick up on this stuff at certain times, and it seems almost imminent, but then nothing happens. She gave a explanation for that, but she showed me something else today that's kind of a simpler way of seeing it, that I'm going to describe and why it might be coming up again like right now. So all pretty interesting stuff. If you want to know more, don't go away.
Wake me up inside. Can't wake up. Wake me up inside. Save me. Call my name and save me from the dark. Wake me up in my blood to run. Can't wait before I come undone. Save me from the nothing love become.
Okay, this also ties into like all the weird energy, the more sensitive people have been feeling for the past 2 months, and feeling out of sorts, being a bit scrambled. And it's stuff that I have talked about before, but you can know stuff and it not register like just how important it is until something else happens. So it began, well, it started a little bit earlier. She can send messages to you many different ways. You would think if you got a good connection with her, she just, blah blah blah, talk in your ear. But sometimes she doesn't. Sometimes she does it through other people. And maybe that's, there's a lot of reasons why she would do that. So it started with a friend of mine, and it's always going to come through people that have some sort of connection as well. A friend of mine, sending me a link to a product, suggesting it, came out of nowhere. And then I was talking to my cohort I speak of often, and I was seeing, because we're always comparing notes, like, what are you feeling? What are you picking up? Anything new? And, so we can see how many people are actually describing the same stuff. And I said, I feel this weird stuff. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like, it's like this prickly feeling in my heart chakra, not my physical heart, but my heart chakra. And she plugged in and she said, what she was getting was I needed more phosphorus. which we determined the main way you get supplemental phosphorus is, I think it's called sunflower lecithin or lecithin. I don't know how you pronounce that word. So I ordered some, but also it's like, yeah, I haven't been taking minerals in a while, and I output a lot of energy because I'm constantly charging these pendants and things like that. And if the outer energy in the world is squirrely, it's going to make me kind of squirrely too, and it's up and down. And I'm like, it's been weird lately. I don't have my normal balance because I don't know what's going on out there. Something's going on out there, and everybody freaking feels it. But we determined, like, oh yeah, well, the main thing you need is magnesium. There's a whole bunch of stuff. There's a whole bunch of things that you're going to want to supplement if you're trying to work with spirit. And I'll get to that in a sec. The reason why is it's pretty much plasma, the fourth state of matter. Spirit is like intelligent plasma. And all this stuff connects. Guess what? It's all connected. So your body is basically like a battery. Like all this stuff in your body, your your mineral content, how hydrated you are, um, is going to affect like how conductive you are to this energy. And one of the things that she brought up today, or actually it was last night, it's like this is one of those things. Have you ever asked yourself, like, what sense does it make that, the governments of the world and the corporations and all that stuff, they don't come up with food that's actually good for us? They feed us junk. They feed us chemicals. They feed us toxins. They put fluoride in the freaking water. They do everything they can, but why? Well, if you look at the bigger Gnostic picture, and shout out to Kenneth, he did a video on the archons today. I'm like, uh-oh, things must really be going down. Kenneth's strolling into my territory. Um, but yeah, you got the like the spiritual archons, but they've got all their finger puppets, which is authority, governments, institutions, anything that has power over people. That's archon, especially legal system and things like that. They don't want you connecting to spirit. That is like the first directive straight out of Genesis, kick and straight out of the other books of the Nag Hammadi, like Secret Book of John, Nature of the Rulers, forgetting the other ones, where their origin on the world, where they're talking about the whole creation story. And Adam and Eve being kicked out of paradise, the big thing was keep them so busy trying to survive that they cannot search for spirit. They don't have time. So they don't want you to connect to spirit. And the best way they can do that is to inhibit your body's natural connectivity, to be able to do that. So that's why it's like people have been talking about like weed forever. Like, why don't what's so bad about weed? Well, nothing really, but I just don't like it. It's not my thing. She don't like it. I'm sure everybody's wired a little bit differently, but that stuff doesn't work good with me. But it has an effect on your consciousness. Now, mushrooms, those definitely do. Like all these things that should not be illegal or even technically classified as drugs, because drugs are more chemicals, they don't want you to have that stuff. Similarly, historically, they will also make it very hard to get supplements that make you think clearly. And a lot over the years, there's been a lot of ingredients in supplements, like health supplements or fitness supplements or weight loss supplements, that work really well, which they don't want you healthy either, but they also have this secondary effect of, making your brain a lot sharper. They don't want you they don't want your brain sharp. They don't want you thinking clearly. They want you tired. They want you just functional enough to go to work. That's it. So every once in a while, back in the day, when I still went to the gym and all that, there would be some sort of new supplement that everybody liked that had the added effect of making you think clearly. The last thing that I can actually remember, it was like it was called Jacked or Jack 3D, depending on how you wanted to pronounce it. It was a pre-workout powder, but it had certain ingredients in it that like made your brain really sharp. Well, they made those ingredients illegal. Same thing with, I'm going to say, the year was 1998. A mythical weight loss concoction was formed, and it was called Xenadrine, RFA1. Now, its big ingredient was good old-fashioned ephedra, but Xenadrine RFA1 was so effective that you could literally sit on your ass all day and lose weight. Because at that time I was working at like the district, recruiting district, and but it also made you think clearly. Then they always come out with this, without fail, they come out with this BS freaking story. There was a kid in Iowa, he was a football player, and he took 25 of these pills and had a heart attack and died. So we had to make them illegal for everyone. You don't think like maybe the fact that he ate 25 of them had something to do with it? No, but they always come up with this, problem, reaction, solution bullshit where it's like, oh, well, here's the reason why, it's not safe. So we got to take it away. Cigarettes, that's fine. But the stuff that makes you think clearly and get healthy, nope, you can't have that. So whenever those things happen to come out, they take it away. And then the companies try to supplement the missing piece with usually like massive amounts of caffeine. And you basically just turn into a giant vibrator because you're shaking so freaking bad. And over time, this cycle continues. If it makes you healthy, if it makes you think clearly, if it opens your consciousness, they ban it. Okay, so that right there is a big thing. The other thing is like the magic pill that pretty much everybody in government takes, but they won't let you have it unless you have Parkinson's. Because I guess that's one of the things they prescribe it for. The other is narcolepsy. It's called modafinil. Modafinil is like the greatest freaking pharmaceutical companies basically just ruined the world, but that was like one of those golden egg moments when they created modafinil. Modafinil is at the realistic level, it's what they based the movie Limitless on. So if you saw the movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper, it's like a pill in the movie. It's a pill that gives you like access to like 100% of your brain. But when he first took it, he came into his house and he's like, "I live here? This can't be. Who would live like this?" And he just like cleaned everything up and then knocked out everything he was procrastinating on. Like that's what modafinil does. It's not like speed like Adderall. It clears all the fog. And some of that fog that it clears is like adversary mind. That's why they don't want you to have it. But, of course, all the suits freaking take it. So anything that's beneficial like that, all those things are going to help you with spirit. They ban it. And then, so they ban the good stuff and they put the bad stuff everywhere. So where um, you can't even avoid it. So they're filling you up with poisons and toxins, and then they're reducing the your minerals, mainly your minerals, your vitamins and minerals. They always say vitamins and minerals, but it should be minerals and vitamins because I think the minerals are way more important in this regard. So then you have to take supplements. And then you have to get the good stuff. Because at one point we had all this stuff. We could just eat food and get what we needed, but not anymore. Most of our food is nutritionally void. The only way you can make food good for you again is pretty much do what I do, is Benedict exorcism, to use the power to negate the effects of poison. So I do that to negate whatever's in my food, and then I bless it and breathe life into it. And I do okay. I do okay. But you still got to take the minerals. The minerals are what conditions your physical body battery to be able to run that plasma spirit. And the biggest things that it needs is magnesium. And you got potassium, calcium, zinc, and there's lots of other ones. You need your electrolyte minerals, like those 40,000 volt drops I got. You need to be hydrated. Electrolytes, cell salts are another good thing to take. Matter of fact, I got some right here. I used to get the Highlands brand, but now it's like I can't find it anymore, where it's like the complete 12-in-1. Yeah, but they're called cell salts. Like, you need those too. That's something I learned from, my early mentor. And it makes a huge, huge difference in the way you feel. But mostly if you are spiritually connected, that's where you're going to notice it the most. And if you're already plugged in and you're doing a lot of output type stuff, it's going to burn you out. And when you're burned out of your minerals, you have to struggle harder to connect to and hear spirit. Why? Because spirit is plasma. Spiritual fire and light. It's freaking plasma. It's like the plasma apocalypse. That's freaking Sophia. Okay? It's not it's not just some mechanical, apocalyptic thing. That's Sophia. She is the plasma. Plasma connects to aether. But it's all intangible stuff. So people uses different words and whatnot, but your soul, all that stuff, that's what you really are. And then you go into worlds and occupy a vessel. But if you want to connect to the larger, apart from all the other stuff, clearing out your past traumas and all that stuff, but on a mechanical level, you got to have a lot of minerals and be hydrated. So the first thing that I would suggest, I didn't get the one my friends sent me. I found something I thought was better. So this is some high absorption it's called Magnesium Plus. The reason why it's got so many more milligrams than the one that the other person sent me is because it's not all just one thing. So magnesium, and it's just, a little gummy like that. Magnesium glycinate is the best one, the one that's got the highest absorption. But some of the other ones, let's see here. Yeah, heart, bone, and nerve health, mind and body performance, mood and sleep support. It's got magnesium glycinate, citrate, and malate. You need magnesium. You definitely freaking need magnesium. And then also like the phosphor light. So I'll have that tomorrow. It's the sunflower lecithin is going to be the source of the phosphorus, which I don't think I've supplemented that before. But that was coming from Sophia through my friend Valerie. I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. But I hadn't taken that one before. Maybe it's because of the way things are changing. We'll get to that here in a sec. I'm going to stay stay here on supplements for just a moment. So the water in your body is important for two reasons. First of all, it is a spiritual capacitor. Um, you're at least 50% water. And we know scientifically that it holds the patterns of energy of negative or positive, like the Masaru Emoto experiments. So if you're trying to shake off, some dark cloud, you can start by doing a Benedict exorcism and blessing on a glass of water and drinking it with the intention of it mingling with the water already in your body, and also consecrating and exercising your vessel that is holding the water. So do you want your vessel to be full of negative energy water or positive energy water? But then on top of that, you need to make sure it can run the energy. So you got something like this stuff that you add to water to make sure you're full of electrolytes. Now, this stuff tastes like ass, I've said before. So what I do is I take a shot glass and fill it 3/4 of the way with water, and I put the whole dose in there because it tastes terrible. And I'll just shoot it and chase it with some water, and then go ahead and keep drinking my water, rather than make a whole bunch of water taste like ass and then have to keep drinking that. But that gets the electrolytes back up. And even last night, I just got that magnesium in the mail today, and geez, I'm like, well, I haven't, taken a bunch in a while, so I'm gonna kick it off with two. Whew. That made a friggin' huge difference. It was almost a little too much. But even last night, after I got off the phone with my friend, I took the magnesium that I did have. It wasn't glycinated, so it was probably citrate. Not as good, but better than nothing. My potassium, selenium, and zinc, and all that stuff. When I took all that stuff, the weird feeling in my heart chakra went away, and I felt a lot more even. And it's like interesting. So it's not just overexertion, but it also has to do with whatever's happening to the world energetically. And all these signs are popping up. That is affecting us. The energy out there is getting stronger. So if our physical capacitors aren't up to the task of running that higher spiritual frequency energy, it's going to make us feel out of sorts. So you got to mineralize. So I think this is like a 60-day supply. It was like 21. I want to say it was like $21 on Amazon. And it's got all the good magnesium in it. I got, the prescriptions they generally give you when you're over 50 from the VA, which I usually don't take, but I looked closer at it and I'm like, oh, because one's for like blood pressure and the other one's for like cholesterol. But I'm like, this is just freaking potassium and calcium. So, start taking it then. It'll make a huge difference. And then you might find that if you're trying everything else, it's like, I just can't feel anything. I can't hear anything. Maybe your battery's depleted. Maybe you're not drinking enough water. Maybe you're not taking in enough minerals. Like, they run a lot of energy. And the reason I know for a fact that this is a thing is, I've told these stories before, but there were 2 times, and then we didn't do it after that. 2 times in which I let Lumen get in the driver's seat, which means she was fully in my body. I was the passenger. She was the primary. First thing she did that morning, so I just sat up out of bed, got dressed real quick, and then started cleaning the apartment. She did like an hour's worth of cleaning in freaking 15 minutes. Like, I was dripping with sweat. And then she starts doing everything that I was procrastinating on. She's going around like freaking crazy. But it was cool because it was almost like those first times I ever tried modafinil, Like I had super brain, literally had super brain. Like I felt like some sort of alpha freaking human because of how clearly and how fast I could think and how fast I could perform calculations and think of things. And I'm going. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. We're going to do this all the time, every day. Every day we're going to be doing this. You're going to drive from now on. And then about 3 hours into it, I started slowing down. And then it got to where it was like, I'm trying to walk through 4 feet of snow. And she's like, why is this thing not moving? And then I collapsed. And I swear I didn't move for like 2 days. Because when you're running full power spirit through you, it'll burn every mineral out of your freaking body. It took me a minute to figure out what the problem was. And I was just like literally, utterly exhausted. Like I couldn't move until I started taking minerals and I started to recoup. I tried it. We tried it again later and didn't even last that long. Maybe it'd be a lot easier for me, like if I was doing this like when I was in my early 30s or something. But lumen requires for her to be fully in the body, it requires like you'd have to have like Elon Musk freaking supplements, secret super supplements from a freaking lab to run spirit in your body 24/7. It requires a ton of power. So it's like trying to run some high drain machine off of like a substandard battery. It just burns you out. So having had those experiences, now I'm aware that if things start to feel like I've also got used to some warning signs too. Like sometimes I'll start getting foot cramps, like my foot wants to make a fist. And if my foot starts doing that, I know I'm low on minerals. And I also notice like I have to struggle to hear them a lot more. If I replenish the minerals, it's a lot easier. It's way easier. And you feel more of that spiritual energy going through you because you are a freaking battery. And that's why they take all the stuff out of the food. So that's something that I know for certain affects people. And if I'm not saying it's everybody, I'm saying there's got to be some people where it's like, I did this, I did the protocols, you know, I wear the pendants. It does, it does clamp down on the negative mind chatter, but like I'm just not connecting to her as much. Have you tried that? Have you tried supplementing your minerals, making a concerted effort to drink more water with more electrolytes and magnesium? Try that, and I guarantee you, suddenly it'll be a lot easier. And it's like, oh, it's not about a bit, it wasn't about ability or skill, or you weren't doing it right. Your body couldn't do it. Your piece of the plasma is in here, and it can't connect to the greater plasma out there because the machine you're encased in isn't running right. It's not holding the energy right. It's not processing the energy right. It's not conducting the energy right. So if you fix your battery, if you fix your body chemistry in relation to the minerals, the electrolytes, and the cell salts and all that stuff, it should be a lot easier to connect. So that is something that you can try. Now, where does that connect to the other thing? Say, when I got up to take a break, I remembered something and I never really tested it. But so I don't know how much this would help or whatnot. I don't have any of this stuff. I just had that one bit. But somebody sent me some raw magnesium once, and I made a pendant out of it. That's all magnesium. Maybe I'll wear that to bed tonight and see what happens. Interesting. But anyway, this connects to like the dragon video. The dragons are the symbols, maybe literal too, who the hell knows, of the cataclysm, the cycle, the reset. And the modern, the common nomenclature that people are throwing around, I don't know who came up with it first, but in YouTube land, it's plasma apocalypse. In the Bible, it's the day of the Lord. But there's another name for it, a name that they've been using for quite some time, especially in Hollywood, and even political people talk about it. And that name is the storm. So here's a little recap from an older video of how much you hear them say these particular words.
As you can probably hear, there's a tornado coming. I'm not afraid of a tornado. Know why? I got a flamethrower. Sorry, tornado!
Well, maybe just the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm is
We have the world's great military people in this room. I will tell you that. And we have great people. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
What did he just say?
He said there's a storm coming in.
Verano tormente. What's he say? He said there's a storm coming.
There's a storm coming, Ari.
There is a storm coming!
There's a storm coming.
There's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne.
There's a storm coming, brother.
There's a storm coming.
There's a storm coming, Dr. Suresh.
There's a storm coming.
There is a storm coming, a black and terrible storm.
There's a storm coming. I sense there's a storm coming.
There's a storm coming! Alice says there's a storm coming.
There's a storm coming.
Storm's coming.
A storm coming soon.
A storm is coming, Frank says. A storm is coming. Our storm.
Storm's coming.
Storm's coming.
There's a fucking storm coming, Dad!
Storm's coming.
Storm's coming.
Storm's coming.
The great storm is coming. The wind that overturns the land.
The storm is coming.
Hey, Coach, there's a storm coming.
A storm is coming.
There's a storm coming.
There's a storm coming, Frank.
Storm coming, kids! Let's get inside!
You can't sleep outside. There's a storm coming.
Storm's coming.
Oh, you all better get your umbrellas out because there's a storm coming! Come on, Jorge, give it to him!
There's a storm coming. What?
There's a storm coming, buddy. There's a storm coming.
I'll go. Kept getting the idea of charged fields, something distorting time, alpha particles. I feel various forces, high frequency sounds, ideas of gravity, EMF, scalar, fundamental forces.
So I had like a energy vortex thing first, very storm-like, energetic, and then it spiraled. I had a feeling that this was an escalating situation. Lots of hurried men in suits running down corridors, lots of hurried communications, which then gave me this kind of visual, which probably goes with that, missile hitting a structure kind of thing. So huge, big black cloud in the sky.
This is interesting. My buddy Darren sent this to me today. A couple of friends of mine, him and my friend Dan. Darren sent Dan the video of me and Dick talking about the July 15th thing. And Dan freaks out and he says, oh my God, I got to send you this photo that I took and tell you about this dream. So the dude has a dream, and he said it was in like June 20th or something like that. And it was he said it was a terrifying dream. And he said he saw tornadoes like going all over the country, destroying everything. And it said June 15th. So he was so startled in the dream that he got up and he actually went over and he wrote it down on the calendar, half asleep. And
You mean July 15th?
I'm sorry, yeah, July 15th. July 15th. Okay. So who knows, man? Maybe July 15th will be Tornado Day, too.
Buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye.
Surrender, Dorothy.
Dorothy? Who's Dorothy?
Oh, I don't think there's anything in that black bag for me.
Well, you forced me into a cataclysmic decision. The only way to get Dorothy back to Kansas is for me to take her there myself.
She had to find it out for herself. Now those magic slippers will take you home in 2 seconds. Oh, Toto too? Toto too. Oh, now? Whenever you wish. Oh, dear. That's too wonderful to be true. I'm ready now. Then close your eyes and tap your heels together 3 times. And think to yourself, there's no place like home. There's no place like home.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
Reflex is good.
Inner response normal. How you feeling, Jake?
Hey, guys. Welcome to your new body, Jake.
Relax, David. Open your eyes.
People in motion, yelling, sweat and blood. Here, this first page, I got people and energy, bursting energy, pop, whoosh. And then all of a sudden, I was down looking out on Earth. And I love when this happens, when all of a sudden, oh, I'm above Earth and it's so beautiful. And I go, wow. Something in the sky, radio frequencies, acrid space smell, EMF events in the heavens, electromagnetic frequencies, Earth, high-pitched buzz, ionized particle, wave hits Earth. The air is disturbed. The air is ripping, charred, hot, compressed air. I got a cold temperatures first and then suddenly hot temperatures. Charred flesh, like bodies cremated by heat. Oh boy, isn't this? My S3 data consolidation was thermal heat radiates and parts people. The air is very disturbed, compressed and swirls and eddies. Over the planet, high-pitched radio frequencies, ionized radiation, a pulse, a wave, and then the bodies. Then I go to a huge rift cracks open. Energy rips, magma erupts, gushes, continental rift, tremendous forces, cataclysm. I don't see how this can be survivable. Open fissure. Is this Earth? Might be another planet. Then something like a bolt slices the air, focused energy, a thunderclap. Air compresses and then rushes. Air swirls and eddies, a whirlwind, megatornadoes, currents swirl. Then this, screech, radio frequencies off the chart, northern lights, pulse, pulsar, magnetosphere swarm. Okay. Then I added this later. Complex mechanical, monitor the magnetosphere, connected spacecraft. There's a very large advanced man-made using hidden technology, space signals, connected spacecraft that are smaller, satellite the swarm, watch, monitor atmospheric events caused by geomagnetic, by earth change, incoming energy. And then I saw a wintertime, excuse me, a sudden air change. Air becomes hot, an energy event. And then something descends like a waterfall, ripping sound, a gas, black energy consumed. Well, isn't that sweet?
So that had already been in the back of my head a little bit once things started getting weird back in December, because the energy felt so weird. And the way she's taught me and shown me, at least through the clues, is, you know, the people that talk about the plasma apocalypse type stuff on a mechanical level are pretty close to the truth. You know, forget what science and authority says. Like, you can't trust them. You can't trust them. But what we're encased in, the way I understand it, I can't say it's 100% accurate, but we are in a closed system. That's biblical. That's Gnostic. I don't give two craps what freaking Neil deGrasse Tyson says. And that would mean that the center of that plasma ball is the big ball of plasma that everybody can see during the day, the sun. And we know Sophia is connected to that conscious plasma energy, which is the life force energy, the ether. That's why all the symbols have that angry feminine aspect, you know, the angry Hindu goddesses and, you know, Medusa with the snakes and all that stuff. That's Sophia when she's flipping the hell out. That's the cataclysm type stuff. But for the people that are ready to be born, you know, finally graduate out of this thing, that's a good day. That's the day you get out. Yeah, it looks freaking scary, but even the Bible told you that. Even the Bible is like, when you see these things, don't freak out because your redemption is near. Yeah, that's how you get out. You hit with a big plasma bolt and blow your meat suit into atoms, and then you, the plasma being, gets reconnected to your mom. She pulls you out of here. So this energy change that's been happening since December, I've never felt anything like it. It's been pretty stable. Now, she didn't start bringing up this scenario until April of 2023. And each year it gets a little bit bigger. Now, the reason that it came screaming back into my head today is she dropped a YouTube video in my feed. And one of the ways, if it stands out to you as something, it's kind of like how a lot of you found this channel. It's like, oh, what's this See the Light? Just popped into my feed one day. I got to watch this. That's her. Well, she does that with me too. So she popped this channel into my feed today that I've never seen before, interviewing some woman that I've never heard of. But the thumbnail caught my freaking eye. And I'm going to show you like just this little clip at the beginning, all the stuff that she says. I can't verify, I don't have the knowledge base to verify that any of these things are true, but if they are, it's quite interesting, especially the thing about the Kali Yuga. So I'll play a couple minutes of this just to kind of give you a basic grasp of if what she's saying is correct, then there's a lot of things stacking up right here at this particular time.
It seems to be a big year of transition.
Massive. Biggest in our lives, I would say. There are just so many convergences, I think, whether you're looking at huge cycles of time, the end of the precessional cycle, 24,000 years, whether you're looking at the fact that the Earth is moving through the galactic current sheet, that only happens every 12,000 years, give or take 500, the fact that we're at the end of the descending Yuga cycle, which is also 12,000 years, the fact that Kali Yuga, the Age of Darkness, is going to end, according to Bibu Dev Misra, who's a great scholar with this, in March, in 2 months' time. Whether you're looking at solar cycles, which are smaller, 11 to 12 year cycles, we're at the peak of solar cycle 25, whether you're looking at the fact that in the next 15 months, all of the outer planets are going to be changing sign. That hasn't happened for 300 years, but if you add in the dwarf planets that are changing sign, the deep space planets, I can't find a time in history when that's happened. We also have a conjunction between Saturn and Neptune at 0 of Aries, the most important degree in the zodiac, the creator degree, the very first beginning. That hasn't happened for over 12,000 years at 0 degrees of Aries. So, you start to, and many more. So you start to put all of these layers together, these convergences, and it just becomes quite mind-blowing. And then you've also got the game changers. Like I think we're going to have a lot more galactic connection. That's indicated in the astrology. We also are going through, I think, a huge biological shift to become what's called the new human or the future human. That's another huge game changer, which again is unique in our history as humanity. So you put together all of these things, and they're all converging principally in 2025. This is really quite remarkable. So the peak is happening this year. So it will be turbulent, it will be fast, it will be dynamic, it will be at times chaotic. It's got whitewater rafting through all of these changes. But it's very exciting because we really are shifting to a very different state of being, a very different reality. But it's us that makes it happen. It's us that makes it happen. And we have more of a blank slate, I think, than we have ever had before, because in our lives, there was a very, predictable, you'd go to school, you'd go to college, you'd meet someone, you'd get married, you'd get a good job, you'd have kids, you'd have a house. It was a pretty predictable kind of life map. That's up for grabs now. It's not going to be that way in future. It's going to be very different. And so all of these things, almost every aspect of our life is changing all at once, both individually and collectively. And so you can look at that as kind of, that's a really, really big, scary thing, and very destabilizing. Or you can say, we're on the ride of our lives. This is so exciting. We can.
So I don't know her source material or who it was she was referencing, but it would be interesting if that person was correct, that the insinuation that the Kali Yuga, which is the dark age basically, was going to end in March. March is my birth month. That would be very interesting. And it would also start to explain things like, why am I seeing all this storm stuff now? Usually it's, it's like, it's in the spring, early summer when that stuff comes up. And here's why. When we talked about this stuff last summer, we were explaining it we're talking about something called nexus points. This is one framework just to kind of understand it. So in the time-space matrix, when you get around to certain points in the calendar or something like that, it could line up to a future point, which is very dramatic. So the psychics or the remote viewers or the sensitives or the shaman or whoever, they get around those time frames, they pick up on that future event. And it might even feel like it's imminent. But then it passes and just seems to fade away. And you're like, what was that all about? Why'd you even show me that if it wasn't going to happen? Here's why. She gave me a different model framework to think of it. So think of like a whirlpool with the wide base being up here that just circles down. So it's kind of like the spiral map that we've talked about on the path. But as you go around the spiral, the loops get closer and closer and closer and closer. So if you are a sensitive person, a remote viewer, something like that, and the spiral is right here, and all of a sudden you're picking up all this stuff about like a super apocalypse storm or something like that. And then it kind of goes away. Well, it wasn't, don't think of linear time like a straight line, but like this spiral. So in the time-space continuum, you were in the vicinity of it, but it might have been 2 or 3 layers down. So it wasn't in your linear path, but on the horizontal axis, you were lined up to it. So you're picking up on that stuff. And the bigger the event, the further ahead in time people can pick up on it when the spiral horizontal axis intersects with the vertical axis. I might have said that backwards earlier. So that would be like why in that clip that I showed you earlier, the remote viewers, you know how many times I've tried to leave comments and stuff and point this out and everyone just ignores me. I'm like the future forecasting groups, I mean, they've got a good record, but where it turns people off is like they predict a lot of this big apocalyptic looking stuff and then it doesn't happen. Here's why. This is what she showed me, and it was very clear. They're picking up at different points in time, they're picking up on this future event and they're getting it in bits and pieces. So like Daz, like he's always picking up on like the vortexes and the tornadoes. And other guys have picked up on like these big, beams of energy coming down. And other guys picked up on, I think it was Daz too, picked up on this ginormous earth crack and all this stuff. But it was that one that we showed you in the clip earlier, the Dick Algar one, and that was from 2020. Like what he did in that is literally a picture perfect to the T description of the storm event, plasma apocalypse, day of the Lord. Like he saw it and he blew it off because this is too fantastic. When things are too fantastic, people just ignore it. I'm like, but you guys have been freaking looking at this thing for a couple of years. And bits and pieces of it make it into, like, you might be trying to remote view one thing, but all of a sudden, like, I'm seeing this giant earth crack. I'm seeing crazy tornado storms and energy vortexes and EMF fields. And then the other thing that commonly comes up is like people in power being frantic, monitoring a situation, all these people in military outfits running down into underground bunkers. That's exactly what the Bible says they'll do. They run into caves in the mountains, and they cry out to the mountain, fall on us and hide us from the face of he who sits on the throne and the wrath of the Lamb. That's the Christ Sophia freaking apocalypse beatdown. They've been seeing it. So if they're constantly getting good results on all these other things, they've done the UAPs, the Trump assassination attempts, like all sorts of stuff. But those are like small events. So are the other things just big made up things? No, it's because they're so big, they're bleeding in from the future, especially when they get lined up on this spiral forward progression, and the horizontal axis meets the vertical axis of wherever that event is. Now it seems like it's coming up again, but what's weird is the timing. The timing and where we are in the year and all that stuff. It's like, to me, like, I can't say this for sure, but where last year it was so intense, like when we had the July 15th thing, that's where the Mars and Uranus conjunction on Algol happened. Like that was kind of like the last warning. But what we were picking up so clear was because it was one layer down. Well, on the spiral, it's like we've gone down to that layer now. Now we're picking up on it earlier in the year because it might be ahead of us. And if things like that lady you're saying are correct, and then all the weird changes that we're seeing in the world politically and everything else, and Trump's in office and they're talking about golden ages, and everybody's got their guard down now because it looks like everything's being put back to what normal used to look like. So you wouldn't see some big sudden thing sneak up on you. You wouldn't be expecting it. That's when it gets you. So it feels like we are like we've finally gotten down to the spiral loop that it's on. And instead of it being below us, it's now ahead of us. And because it's ahead of us, we are now picking up on, we're all sitting here like, what the hell's going on with the energy? Like, why does it feel so freaking crazy? Like, even the normies are feeling it. Like, I don't know how much they're feeling it right now, but in the last 2 months, they're like, it feels weird. It feels weird. Like, everything feels weird. Like, that's the normies. Us energetically sensitive people, we're just like, I don't even know what the hell's going on. I don't know how to counter it because I don't know what's happening. But it is definitely different. Like, I've always been energetically sensitive, but I've only had them since 2020. But come December was something completely new. Now she's dropping the storm clues again. And it also comes through other people and the things that they say to you. They feel like something big's coming. They feel like something big's coming. And that's why she's always pushing me. Get as much done as you can. I don't believe that you're going to get thrown into the wood chipper because you didn't fully unlock Lumen. But you gotta like be fully turned yourself over to the light and be in the process of letting it take over at least. Now, if we're being theoretical here, one thing that stood out to me with that Dick Allgaier thing is he saw a scene at the end where he's like, it's winter, but then all of a sudden it gets really hot. Well, depending on the year, it can be cold, wintry where we're at, up through freaking April sometimes. So March is definitely not a stretch. The seasons don't line up perfectly like they did when I was growing up. Winter oftentimes comes late. You expect it in December because you're used to white Christmas and all that. But you get hit with all the blizzards and stuff like in February, early March, whatever. So that's still within that time frame. Does that mean it's going to happen? No, but I mean, signs everywhere, there's signs. And it's coming from her. And you can't really dismiss it if you've gone through a process with her where she's completely retuned your life and fixed everything and changed who you are. And she's the one who was guiding you the whole time. And she's got the receipts. By their fruits you shall know them. So why would the spirit of truth lie? about something like that. It just feels like bull crap because the events are so big that spiral framework, every time it comes up, it feels imminent. But we don't know how we move through time space in this realm. We're picking up on things when we're like, we could be over the target. If the timeline spiral was like this clear catwalk or something like that, you could look down into the future and see it, but you can feel it because you're above it, but it's not in front of you. So you feel it, there's all these signs, and then they go away. Then it comes back again. And you get all this anxiety and things amping up, and then it goes away. And you're like, this feels like some sort of pump fake. But on that spiral map, it actually makes a lot more sense. So if that's true, then these energies are going to keep increasing. And therefore, since you're being evolved, it's going to affect you more negatively unless you're taking the steps to keep up with the energy, which includes, not just our stuff, but especially the mineral stuff, the magnesium stuff, the electrolytes. We got to be better with that. Not just for connecting to them, but running the energy overall, the effects that it's having on our bodies. It's just weird. Never seen anything like this before. And all these hints and clues are popping up again. Again, she brought there was the dragon dream or the monster dream. And then we talked about the dragons and what are those things the symbols of? The cataclysm event. The storm. There's a storm coming. I mean, Donald Trump in that first term, he said that a couple times and he never once explained what he was talking about. Maybe it's the calm before the storm. What storm, Mr. President? You'll find out. We never did. What was he talking about? Now they're talking about golden ages. It's like, But even that collection of movie clips, like there's more. There's more. I just can't think of any. I know there's more. I might have talked about it last year, but it comes up all the time. Every once in a while, I hear it in some news show. There's a storm coming. Like, why do they keep saying that? So the plasma apocalypse Day of the Lord event would look like a storm. It would look like a storm, a crazy ass storm. It would look like, because after I talked about the dragons in the dragon video, I rewatched Godzilla King of the Monsters. So there's a scene where the monsters are just going crazy, and King Ghidorah, which is one of the dragons that we detailed in that dragon video, it showed like Washington, D.C., and it was like all stormy and red, and it was flooded, and there were ships tipped over, and buildings wrecked, and monsters everywhere, and plasma bolts, and tornado. Like that's exactly what I imagined it would look like. So I hadn't really thought much about that Godzilla movie stuff being Codex, but there is Codex stuff in there. Specifically Godzilla King of the Monsters and the first Godzilla versus Kong. Godzilla versus Kong got so much craziness in it. The Hollow Earth stuff, which, she's talked about that before, or at least I've seen it. I see images of it, like the place where me and Lumen went during the Lover's Card thing. It looked like how Hollow Earth always looks like in those movies. Looked just like it. But they had a lot of the crazy deep state stuff in that movie and underground tunnels that went all over the world. Like there was a lot of weird stuff in there. But keep abreast of it. Pay attention to these clues and these signs, and leave comments and stuff when you see stuff like that, because I like hearing about it. Because the more people that are speaking up about these things, if all of a sudden, if you're seeing something and all of a sudden 20 other people are seeing similar things, like that's something to pay attention to. And it's a privilege to have an early warning to this event. because ultimately that's mom and dad breaking you out of jail. Even though to the rest of the world, they're like, oh my God, this is horrible. Like, man, maybe for you, not for me. I can't wait for mom to break this place. But it's a privilege to have early warning about it. It refocuses you, makes you think, like, and then you start talking to her like, well, mom, what do I got to do? What else can I do to be as ready as possible so I can get out of here and go home? So something's coming. Something's coming. All right, we're going to wrap this up for right now. If you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us through the Etsy store, clumencreations.etsy.com. We're putting up new stuff every day. I've put 2 or 3 new things up there today. Plus, I'm trying to fit that in between getting these orders filled. But it's a matter. I'm putting up stuff we've already made. I'm making some new stuff as it comes up and putting it up there. Just keeping it flowing, doing a lot better with it than we used to do. I figured out how to streamline doing the listings, so that saves me a ton of time, makes it a heck of a lot easier. If you want to listen to the music to get yourself in the right framework, the right frequency for connecting to her, some of the music is connecting to that spirit heart plane. Some of the music is clearing out the negative entity stuff. You can find that in the links in the description box below at our SoundCloud. So other than that, Chris and Lumen, see you next time.